System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
Okay, so this is Inner City Left podcast. I am Amin TMK alongside with Lil Tanky and Key to the Muscle. This is all about leftist news, culture, geopolitics, grassroots, all those good things. You can follow us on Instagram at Inner City Left. This is our first podcast as Inner City Left, formerly Public Pulse, formerly Exit the Matrix. Y'all know we like to switch our brand up here and there, but the content has not changed, right? I mean, we're still talking our shit. We're still speaking on, like I said, the leftist movement. So we've been thinking about how we want to re-enter back into the space, right? So I thought it might be a good idea to speak about, because I see that there's this general opinion that, lots of bad things are happening in other countries. There's, Iraq and Iran and, Uganda and Qatar, and everyone's pointing fingers at China and Russia, and it's like America.
Worry about yourself.
Worry about yourself.
What about your motherfucking
Worry
self?
about yourself.
Worry about yourself.
That's pretty much what our conversation is going to be today. Do y'all have any things you want to say, anything you want to say to the people before we get this thing started? Okay, they don't have anything to say. They're quiet people, yeah, they're quiet people. But when we start getting to talk about politics, they'll have something to say. So I wrote a couple things down here because I think we've already spoken about this a lot. BRICS, okay?
Changing the world.
Would you mind giving a brief overview of BRICS, either Muscle or Tanky?
I mean, as a proponent of Inner City Left, where we, coming up from BRICS. Now, BRICS is actually...
All white bricks.
Yeah, it is.
All white bricks. That's the Inner City Left shit. Anyway, keep going.
Right. It's an economic and cultural alliance that is kind of all about protecting their status in the world, right? Like, also rejecting American hegemony. So what does BRICS stand for? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? Now, these populations together represent more than half of the world's population. Easily more than half.
Yeah, more than half. India and China in of
are
itself is
half
like 40%.
of the world's population.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Think about what happens when these European nations, America represents less than 13% of the global economy. I'm sorry, the global population.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Way more than that in the economy, but not for long, maybe. But when they put out these sanctions, they say, well, if you do business with these countries, we won't do business with you. Right? But some of these are really big countries, and you can't bully everybody. BRICS is a whole new way of imagining how we can move through the world. Think about it as an alternative more to the G7 than, say, an alternative to NATO.
To the G7, right? It's an alliance and a financial alliance, you know what I'm saying? People, get this money. And that's what they're doing right now. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about BRICS, unless you had anything you wanted to throw in there, Muscle.
I just want to say this last thing about BRICS. What's important about BRICS is, though they don't represent half of the world's economy, they are a significant and unignorable part. So when you're talking about an alliance like BRICS, an economic and cultural alliance, when a nation like Russia gets sanctioned by the West, but you still have alliance in BRICS, okay, that means that you're not going to be sanctioned in a way that will affect you doing business with, say, Brazil, or say, India, or say, China, or say, South Africa. And you have other countries trying to come on to this BRICS thing. Iran wants to be part of BRICS. Saudi Arabia wants to be part of BRICS. This is all really important because these people are de-dollarizing, and I'll come to a little bit more of that on my section in just a little bit.
Well, yeah, great point, because I wanted to bring this up. So this is the article I'm reading right here. The BRICS Alliance is exploring the creation of an innovative currency with plans to share proposals on its establishment at the forthcoming summit in South Africa. Speaking at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in New Delhi, India on Thursday, one of the spokesmen said that the plan is initially a transition to use domestic currencies in transactions then introduce and circulate a digital or alternative form of a groundbreaking currency in the near future. Now, I wanted to bring this up because I don't think the American dollar was doing very well. It needs to get some cough drops or some tussin, something in there. And I think there's a lot of, again, just to go back to the America worry about yourself, like there's a lot of finger pointing about like individuals in America about like what is happening. But like while that's happening, the rest of the governments and sovereign nations are like figuring out what they're supposed to do. And what are we doing here in the United States? We're funding wars. We're funding the police. We're bailing out banks that make incredibly risky decisions. And because of that, you're starting to see...
Hey, yo, but it's unconstitutional to bail out students that were bullied into going to college and taking ridiculous fucking loans.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers put 15% of this quarter's earnings on fucking, let's just say, specious motherfucking crypto bets and shit.
Good God.
And then the shit go wrong. Well, you guys shouldn't be out of your money. The FDIC is supposed to only cover private individuals. And only up to 100,000.
I think it's 250,000, but either way,
okay. Yeah,
it's irrelevant in the grand scheme of how much money these people have in banks. When you have 30 million or 20 million in a bank, I'm sure 100,000 and 250,000 is not.
You got just enough to buy your son a fucking BMW before you kill yourself.
You jump out the window like they was doing on what was that?
Shoot yourself in the head twice and jump out a window.
Yeah, there you go. They committed suicide. So BRICS. We're going to be talking about BRICS for a long time. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because at the end of the day, if America doesn't worry about itself, we're going to stay in this situation. So I'm just going to keep it moving with my little things here. I just wanted to talk again about the Ukraine war. From what we're hearing, from the information that we follow, looks like a completely hopeless outcome.
We said this shit before the war got started. I mean, if y'all are paying attention, motherfucking inner city left called this shit before it happened.
Like 2 years ago.
Prepared y'all for this shit, and then niggas was like Pikachu face and shit.
Huh?
What the fuck? Why would they do this? When the fact is, Russia had almost 1 million troops on the border on the eve of the fucking Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump election because they assumed it was gonna go hot then because everybody just knew there was no way Donald Trump's simple ass was really gonna win.
And everyone knew that Hillary Clinton was one of the most devious women in the game. And she had it out for Russia from jump. So Ukraine is a war that can't be won, okay? We know this. Everybody in...
What would happen if Mexico went to war with the United States? I mean, you're talking about a lesser power versus a greater power. Now, look, guys, this isn't diminishing Mexico as a country. If you don't understand the jargon on lesser power versus greater power, that's a whole nother podcast. But just Google the shit.
Shout out to Mexico, for sure.
Shout out to Mexico.
Much love to Mexico. So it can't be won, but here we are, continuing. We're sending tanks. We're sending billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars. That can't go to...
Making money off the losses.
Fixing Ohio's train derailments. Wasn't there just a chemical spill in Ohio? Ohio's going through it.
How is that going to help Boeing's fucking quarterly earnings?
It's not. So yeah, I mean, we could talk. The rail, the rail disasters are our conversation for real. But again, when you're sending, not only are we sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, we're still spending hundreds of billions of dollars on the military in general. Like it's like here's some money for the military and some extra for Ukraine. So what you're seeing is, this war is destabilizing the global economy. It's interrupting the grain shipments. It's a huge loss of life. Remember, we talked about this. Anybody the age of 21 to 50 had
drafted
immediately.
So then, what is a civilian?
Exactly. But this is going to be, no matter what is said, this is going to be Biden's legacy, right? Spending all this money in Ukraine. Now, this is what makes it crazy.
You can make an argument that his legacy is letting millions of Americans die of COVID. I mean, but apples and oranges, right? Apples and peaches.
Yeah, they're already running articles that it's saving on Social Security because he let all the seniors die.
Dear God, eugenics.
Yeah.
But see, that's the Nazi shit that connects all these motherfuckers together.
Right. At the end of the day, they want to kill the, what do they call them? Undesirable.
Less desirable, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just wrap this up because, like I said, there's a million things I want to talk about. You're destabilizing this region. You're doing all these things. The war cannot be won. So many Ukrainians have died. Many of them were not soldiers. That many of them were probably playing video games and watching a Great British Bake Off. 3 months before this war started. But you destabilize the region. There is no Zelensky is basically saying, hey, Americans are going to have to come here and fight and die. We know that's going to be a World War III situation if they put troops on the ground in that way. But here we are in a country right now that is reeling economically. We're still in this war. And what do I hear all the time? I hear all kind of, well, Putin and this and Russia to stop this and all of this. And it's like China is trying to get Ukraine and Russia to end the war. And how is that going to happen? Russia is going to keep Crimea, which there was never in question, and the Donbass area.
Which are all ethnically Russian. And look, let me prepare you motherfuckers for this too, right? Because it's not over. They're gonna lose Odessa too, okay? They're Russian speaking. Fucking Tolstoy writing about fucking Odessa 100 fucking years ago, man. I mean, y'all need to stop acting like y'all don't know this ain't Russian.
You have to understand, like, cultural and, like, racial and, there's more than just a line on a border that says this is this and this is this. And at the end of the day, we've wasted a lot of money that we could have spent here destabilizing a region and killing a lot of people because America's in every proxy war. They're in everything.
It is, but it's also hypocritical because they keep talking about how they want Ukraine deserves to be a country. Well, so does Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands.
What the fuck is deserves? In this world, listen, man, force makes. If you can't defend a thing, like you walking through the hood, you know what I'm saying? You got $30,000 in your back pocket flashed out. You know what I'm saying? You trying to buy a little dime sack and shit, okay? You don't deserve to get robbed. But nigga, you going to.
Yeah, what's your relationship with force? And this is how we live. This is how we work in like a geopolitical framework. Like, why does a country like Iran want to have a nuclear weapon? So they can, like...
walk through the neighborhood safely.
Walk through the... Exactly.
And Syria's been bombed 3 times this week by the IDF. You know when that shit would stop? If you're worried about something else coming back.
Exactly. So, and this is what they talk about with all these other nuclear proliferation, blah, 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 blah. Like, stop that. Like, at the end of the day, it's like we get to bully you because we have bigger weapons, and that's geopolitics. I don't want it to be like that. I don't interact like that in my life, where because I'm the strongest person, I get to rule the area. No, of course I'm not saying, but that is the nature of the world, unfortunately.
It is the material condition which we must acknowledge. You know what I'm saying? You have to acknowledge the material conditions. That's the one thing that'll let you know, like, is this an ideology or is this shit workable?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to segue and keep this thing moving. Russia, they got lots of oil, don't they?
Some of the largest proven reserves, but not just oil, natural gas.
They're sanctioned, Can't get none of that. At least America's not getting that. Europe is not getting that. Germany is certainly not getting that. But somebody else is getting that bag. There's been intense conflicts between Iran and Saudi Arabia for quite some time. Secular differences, so on and so forth. I'm a Muslim. I don't like that kind of the secular thing. At the end of the day, Sunni and Shia, y'all, we got to work it out. You know what I mean? But man, they look like they dapped it up and they hugged. And China said, "Hey, why you putting on for these white folks? Why are you doing that?"
China said, "Cui bono? Who gains? Mm-hmm. If you motherfuckers are at war, who are you winning, Iran? Are you winning, Saudi Arabia? So if no one's winning, if no one's gaining, why are you losing? Why don't y'all both stop losing? That's how you win. That's how you gain. Cui bono, peace, you will both gain."
And this has to go back to your boy Jump Off Joey B, who basically said he wanted to make Saudi Arabia
a pariah state. Talk that shit. Fuck around. Find out.
Here in America, it doesn't matter what you say. You could say something today and it'd be something different tomorrow.
Inner city left know the streets is watching.
And guess what? So do other countries. So do other news organizations. They keeping tabs on all these things. And MBS decided to go, you know what? We don't need y'all. We're good. And I'm just reading here right now. We talking about Syria. Bashar Assad, he's going. He's going to Saudi Arabia. There's conversations happening now. And we talk about, again, just want to bring up the Ukraine thing. I learned about this the other day. America has larger territory of Syria than Russia has territory in Ukraine. America, worry about yourself, man.
Worry about yourself.
And in the United Nations, they talking about that. You know what I'm saying? In the United Nations, you got people asking questions that are uncomfortable questions now. You know, we talking about Putin as a war criminal. Motherfucking Guantanamo's still open.
And we can talk more. There's so much news to talk about. I'm going to keep this thing moving because it's all there, and I'm going to get to y'all topics as well.
What about yourself?
Yeah, facts. Chad nationalizes their oil. Again, I don't know how much they're working with, but that's incredibly big for them. Because here's a book that Tanky put me up on. Stories of an economic hitman. Confessions of an economic hitman. You got to go out. It's just foundational. And when you look at what America's playbook is, it's you come into a country, it's big promises about what you're going to create. You're going to line the pockets of the rich people that are already there. You're going to, use these big, what do they call them, like geo-corporate entities like Exxon or whatever it may be. And few people get rich.
And the NGO system.
And what happens is a few people get rich. And the country just loses its resources. So Chad is seeing this, and they're going, no. We're going to worry about ourselves, which is what America should be doing.
Straight out of Wall Street, too.
Y'all need to watch Wall Street, too. You need to watch Wall Street.
Equatorial New Guinea, just replace that with Chad.
Yeah.
There's rumors that Equatorial New Guinea is nationalizing their oil.
Right. Again, which was just speculation, which is just what money is. A fiat currency is just speculation. Okay, so I wanted to add that tidbit because I just want to keep going down in here. Okay, boom. Which brings me, I want to switch this up too because your girl Kamala Harris was out in Africa checking out some nation saying, hey, why y'all hanging out with China? They not good for you.
Look at me. I'm black. I'm an African woman. We're not going to do shit for you, but it's so symbolic that you got to take a photo with me.
Do not come. Do not come.
Well, we'll continue exploiting you and your country for your resources, but we're black, right? Or African Americans.
Yeah, but these Russians and these Chinese motherfuckers want to build trains. They don't look like you, but
I was wondering the other day, how many countries did Russia colonize in Africa? The Soviet Union?
That would be none. Not a fucking single one. So you don't have that legacy of baggage.
Anyway, so she's out there, but a lot of people are against that. A lot of people are upset about her being there. Fred Emembe, who is the a part of the Zambian government.
Yeah, he's the opposition party.
There you go. He basically came out and he's like, look, we know what happened to Patrice Lumumba. We know what happened to Thomas Sankara. We know what happened to Gaddafi. Like, we see this. We know it's happening. Maybe America doesn't know. Maybe we don't see. Remember we were just talking about the ICC and all the European and American leaders that they decided to indict? No, the ICC only indicts African leaders. They only indict, their African warlords, but really no smoke for any of these Blackwater types or any of these mercs or anything like that.
George W. Bush.
How could George
Cheney, Rumsfeld?
I mean, the most liberal president we have killed the most people with drones.
I found out I was pretty good at killing.
American presidents are war criminals, but there's no charges. So again, I think Americans should just worry about their country first.
What about your fucking self?
Worry about yourself.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, and we're going to get into Tanky and Keita. I appreciate y'all patience. I've clearly had a lot to say today. The Nord Stream pipeline, y'all. We have got to stop playing the dance that it was Dr. Zhivago and 6 of his buddies that hopped on Conor McGregor's yacht and blew up.
It was the Klingons, man. Space fucking aliens, man. You can't understand the 7th dimensional shit, man.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, third eye open. Joe Biden... Seymour Hersh has said it. If you know, please just look up Seymour Hersh. And
we're not here to advocate for this motherfucker, but a reporter is a reporter.
I extrapolate information that I need from whoever the fuck. Personally, it's not about personalities and things like that. It's like what you're talking about. Where are your receipts? Where is your proof? And Seymour Hersh has a 30-year track record of receipts. That's all I'm saying. Everybody already knew when it happened. It was America. Everyone knew. There are only like
Biden said he was going to do it. I mean, he insinuated. I mean, it's like, I ain't saying I took your motherfucking lunch money,
But I did say that I would do it.
but I did say I like your lunchbox.
And I'll do anything to get it. We'll get it done. That's what he said.
Trust me.
Yeah, it got done.
This is backlash, y'all. At the end of the day, I know Americans don't care. Americans aren't tripped over about it, but I'm telling you, everyone else in the world is. And the story that they're giving and all of this stuff, at the end of the day, like, it just makes America, and because it is, America look, because we talk about perception, right? The perception of the dollar. The perception of America is, when I talk to my homies who are in India, who are in Palestine, who are in UAE, when I talk to my homies who are in Egypt, when I talk to my homies who are all over the world, what are they saying? Everybody looking at America like, that's a shithole country. Everybody's looking at America. They're seeing the amount of homeless population. They're seeing the lack of health care. They're seeing police brutality on black people in this country. They're seeing this, and they're going, what a shithole. But Americans are going, look at Chinese Uyghurs. Look at Iran. Look at, they're poisoning their kids. What are y'all talking about? America is deeply sick. It is deeply entrenched in white supremacy and all of these crazy sociological deficiencies and all of that. So, America, worry about yourself.
What about yourself?
Focus on what's happening here. I'm not saying that, I mean, we keep on geopolitics all the time, no matter what. So I'm not saying don't be informed of what's happening in the world. I'm not saying that countries, you know what I'm saying, like, European countries and places like Japan, imperialist nations are not doing bad things, but they are. But America is number one in oppressive shit ever in the history of humanity and possibly the history of life in the universe. So America, worry about yourself. That was my time. Thank y'all so much. Tanky, what you got for me today?
Yo, I think the Nord Stream thing ties right into what I'm talking about, right? Because when you look at America, right, what they've had over the world for really the past 80 years since World War II is economically they've had a stranglehold, but they're losing that, right? So when you see Nord Stream, it brings me right to what I want to talk about. It's interesting to me because Nord Stream being blown up, y'all may not even know what Nord Stream is. So let me give you that real quick.
Overview for the people.
Nord Stream was like a literal super highway for petroleum products and light natural gas, compressed natural gas, that was sent directly from Siberia, okay, all the way to Europe. It allowed Europe to have cheap oil, almost nothing costs on natural gas, which people need for a variety of reasons, and as petrochemicals goes, burns the cleanest, right? You're talking about a literal super highway that's pumping hundreds of millions of barrels of fucking oil between Russia to Europe, okay? That was just magically blown the fuck up. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's easy to get to pipelines. Things happen to pipelines. Pipelines rupture every day, B. But this shit was like under fucking water, man. Deeply underwater. Like super far. So like this is the kind of thing that only like SEALs could do. Shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Like people who've had like
extremely specialized training.
Exactly. Not dudes on a yacht.
And it reminds me of kind of that abusive boyfriend, whereas like, if I can't have you, nobody can. Because my point is this. After long soul searching, I have finally come to understand why nothing was ever done as far as like the Paris Accords, as far as these environmental fucking regulations. Why the greenhouse gases never went down, no matter what we said we were going to do as a country. Everything is about speculation. People say that the dollar is a fiat currency that's not backed by anything, but that's not true. It's backed by oil. You couldn't trade for petroleum barrels pretty much anywhere in the world except that you use United States dollars as a reserve currency.
And how long has sort of that been the status quo, would you say?
Since World War II.
So that's quite some time.
Quite some time, almost 100 years. So for every barrel of oil that gets sold, those are American dollars that are in the global economy. If you start to do real carbon capture, if you start to do depreciation of the utilization of petroleum, what you're talking about is literally undercutting the thing that inflates all of the dollar's value. You cannot trade for petroleum except for with a fucking dollar. So if you stop trading petroleum or you trade less petroleum, the dollar has less value. But the United States has pissed so many fucking countries off, even they are de-dollarizing. This is shit that dead ass, no conspiracy theory, used to get you fucking killed. This is what got Muammar Gaddafi killed. Fuck what you heard. The moment he decided to de-dollarize his petroleum, damn shame what happened to that boy.
He was a dictator.
What happened to that boy?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dead ass, right? So then when Joey B goes talking all that pariah shit, he's talking all that pariah shit, Saudi Arabia hears that shit. They start de-dollarizing. They decide we're only going to trade for our oil with China in the yuan, which is China's fucking currency, right? That takes literally hundreds of billions of dollars off the fucking global board, which means you can't do shit like what America did in Afghanistan. Oh, we just gonna hold on to your $7 billion because it's all dollars. The United States can determine what happens. The the Federal Reserve can decide what happens with dollars, who to accept dollars from, who not to, because you control that currency. Well, you don't control the yuan. You can't sanction that shit. Countries are going to trade for that, especially BRICS. Countries are going to trade for that. And Saudi Arabia wants to be part of BRICS. It's scary to me because it makes me think about what with this Nord Stream shit, if they can't have you, no one will. Once they realized that Europe was going to be economically tied to Russia, they decided to literally, physically do something about it, right? As the American global hegemony, economic hegemony slips and starts to falter, and as China begins to ascend, we're seeing all these new provocations, all these new reasons why we gotta have war with fucking China. Scary shit, but worry about your motherfucking self.
What about yourself?
Because guess what's not gonna happen? They're not gonna stop mining lithium in these countries and cooing whoever we want. Says
that's
Elon
y'all
Musk.
favorite fucking tech bro, Elon fucking Musk.
Man, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are gonna make it possible. No, they're not making anything possible.
But I'm sorry.
No, maybe there's employees, the people that they've hired can make some things happen, but they're not making anything happen.
So the bright side for the economy, and that's the TLDR on all this shit, is now that these huge petroleum producing countries are country. Wow, how could a person make that mistake? As they begin to de-dollarize, all of a sudden the United States, after Joey B gets gone, because right now, he's on his own fucking shit. He got fucking Germany using coal and shit. But once he gets gone, right, the next couple of presidents, strong moves. Oh, we gotta be environmentally friendly. We gotta cap the fucking petroleum use. Yeah, because them shits ain't traded in dollars no more. Now that it's no longer the overt threat of tanking the American banking system, now, finally, maybe we can get some climate justice. I'm out.
What you got for us, Muscle?
So child labor is making a comeback because, the United States and capitalism are really tied closely together. I think it's sad but interesting because a lot of my friends and folks approach me because I have really firm stances on some things, especially when it comes to censorship around children, that I don't believe in censorship, that I do believe that we need to engage children in a variety of media and context and what's going on, but that given the state of the world as it is now, we are not living in a utopia as much as I wish we were, given the state of the world now, that there are children going through horrific, horrendous things and issues and problems that adults aren't addressing because, they want to keep drag shows away from kids instead.
Just ridiculous. Just shit that doesn't matter. This stupid woke thing.
Right. So violations of child labor laws have been on the rise since 2015. So this is not necessarily new. It's just trended far enough that some states have begun repealing their child labor laws. Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri immediately come to mind. Minnesota and Iowa actually want to allow some teenagers to work in construction and meat packing plants, which, they're saying it's better for the economy. Kids really need to learn responsibilities and learning how to navigate finances. This is bullshit. Let's just be real. When we talk about how many people died from COVID, millions of Americans have died. And that a lot of adults have now said, we're unionizing. We're not putting up with the shit of low wages. Minimum wage hasn't increased for decades at this point and is now so far behind inflation that nobody working full-time on minimum wage can afford to live in a one-bedroom home.
Anywhere
But
in America.
it doesn't work. It doesn't matter because you're not going to pass a credit fucking check anyway. So you're not going to be able to get a fucking
Like,
house.
getting a
Exactly.
house is so incredibly violent, yo. It's so invasive. I was listening to us on Instagram the other day. It was a video of Cassidy from Philadelphia. I know you're not big Cassidy fans, but I grew up a Cassidy fan, and he was talking about one of the big reasons why artists mainly get signed between the ages of 16 and 22 is because they really don't have any business savvy. They're not, you get a bag and you're just happy to have one. You don't understand you have to pay all that money back and you have to do all these things. Children are easy to exploit. You remember, I don't know if I was telling y'all this. I was like, oh, when I'm growing up, I'm going to make $1 billion and buy a Bugatti.
Yeah.
Hey, I was a communist and I planned to be a millionaire before I was 40. So
Every kid I talk to, when we go and we work with young people and we're like, hey, if you could have any wish, what would you have? People are like, I want to be rich.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly why kids are easy to exploit in these systems. And that these child labor violations are already happening when states are trying to repeal their child labor laws. Part of the issue, of course, as we are all aware, is that Iowa, in addition to advocating for repealing some child labor law restrictions, also wanted to lessen their businesses' civil liability if these kids were sick, injured, or killed on the job. That's what they decided for. But even like states like New Jersey have expanded how long teens can work because they're like, oh, there's just nobody available and teens really need to start learning this responsibility. Arkansas even repealed its child labor law, which was that children under 16 were required to submit state documentation in order to work. And then the state would say, how many hours are they working? What are their duties and responsibilities? And follow up with it. And Arkansas now says, well, if you're younger than 16, your parents should be able to do whatever they want with you, including exploit you for your labor. And I think this goes in contrast with parents actually exploiting their children as influencers on social media platforms as well.
This is a Hollywood thing too, right? All the kids who are child actors, their parents just take their money, allow them to be abused and all that crazy stuff.
Yes, because kids don't actually, we're saying like we want kids to learn this financial responsibility. And this is why I always say, look at people's actions. And the actions we're not protecting children. These violations have increased since 2015. The businesses are actually trying to reduce their liability. But that also, these are a lot of migrant children and children of immigrants and refugees who are being told to go into these packing plants. Packers Sanitation Services is one of the biggest violators. They had to pay like 1 point something million, but for them, they're like, well, paying the fine is cheaper than stopping child labor. Like, this is great free labor for them by exploiting people who try to come to this country for opportunities.
I see. This is fascinating to me because both of you motherfuckers are okay with teenagers in the X Games, where you could like do a triple backflip
If
and
they
die.
can make their choice, you sit down. You're like, hey, here are the consequences. Here are my very real, valid fears as an adult who cares for you, which is that you will get severely and supremely injured doing this.
dead.
Do you still? But I did crazy shit as a kid. How am I as an adult then going to be like, you can't do crazy shit, but I did crazy shit?
We're not saying that skateboarding and working 8 hours in a meat packing plant is the same, though. I mean, what's happening here is not, should kids go out and, I'm a big advocate for kids should be able to do really what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course I listen to my parents because, that they was like taking care of me, you know what I'm saying? But after a while, they stopped. And I had to move on. But what I'm saying is, we want to exploit people, and this is what capitalism is. I mean, you could talk to Marx about this, but it's the business of exploiting, and you can exploit young people. And this is what my parents said. I'll never forget this. My dad, when I first got my job at Hungry Howie's Pizza, home of the flavored crust, by the way.
Wow.
He was like, I'm so proud of you. I've never been so proud of you. And I was already struggling at school. I was already struggling with my mental health.
A job is exactly the last shit you needed.
That's exactly the last shit any kid needs. You want to hop on a skateboard and have fun? Yeah, we should encourage you to have fun. We should encourage you to live your childhood. And it's so... And in many ways, it's also like this is why we talk about America worry about yourself, but also levels of poverty that result in the repeal of child labor laws. That capitalism at its core, we can never forget the industrialization age and how Chicago meat packing industry literally was like, yeah, there's going to be, 20% human, and then that's fine. Up until we put in regulations and policies in place to say, actually, our meatpacking facility should have no amount. But because people, like adults, were having to deal with machinery that cuts off your limbs, that like can seriously and gravely injure you. And now we're saying, oh yeah, kids should be in those. They should be in the heat, working 16-hour days. And it's like capitalism wants to go back to free labor and how it can ever exploit that. And at its core, like we have to really examine why is making money this fucking important? That our families and our friends are so poor, they're now selling their children again in order to bring some minimum income into the household?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, I guess the only thing I would say on all of this is I could see maybe legislation where we say certain jobs are too dangerous. But again, you can't get away from the hazard and potential of danger for things like the X Games. I mean, that shit is dangerous, man. That's why we love to watch it. People do fall. People do harm themselves.
What's the amount of injuries?
I don't know.
That are life-changing. Very small compared to a meatpacking situation.
Okay,
You're talking
sure.
about, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, what's the numbers? If the numbers are, there are, 70 young people a year who die from skateboard accidents, maybe. But, like, if that number isn't there, it's just a potential of, well, maybe they could get hurt. I played football.
Sure.
Okay, I played football very early. I wrestled. I'm going to tell you right now, football is much more violent than a guy flying up in the air and doing that with pads and all those things. So, that's my only perspective.
And I have to say that there are already laws in place. There are some federal laws, definitely some state laws. And companies like Packers Sanitation Services are like, well, fuck it. We don't care about the law because it's cheaper to employ the kids than pay the fines. There aren't enough consequences for them to stop.
Yeah, man, it's all fucking bad. And I think what it wraps up to is worry about yourself.
You want me to help, Rose?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
What do you want me to do?
What about yourself?
What about yourself? I have one more. Did y'all have any quick hits? I have one. I just wanted to say this because I was at the PSLDC open mic yesterday. Shout out to PSLDC. Much love to them. Party for Socialism and Liberation in D.C. We're not a member, but we are some, we're collaborators, I guess. But, of course, we show love to the people who are making the movement move. And they brought to my attention that since 2018, rent has went up 25% in Washington, D.C., and they are now about to raise the the rent-controlled housing. It's about to go up for the first time since the pandemic. I think it's going to be a 7.3% increase. People who are already struggling to pay their rent. Housing is an incredibly big problem here in the United States, and we just saw that Jeff Bezos is now proposing that, instead of being a landlord and owning a house and renting it out, you join a bunch of other investors, and there's a group of people now that are the landlord, and they eat off of what your rent situation is.
And to be clear, it's not housing that's a problem because there are literally enough homes in the United States to house everybody. It's the exploitation of housing that's the problem.
Yeah, and and again, it just goes back to the whole thing, America, worry about yourself, because
What about yourself?
like when the economy is bad, you got to find places where money is always coming in. And what do people have to have?
Gotta have a house. Gotta have a way to work. That's real
you
estate
need housing
control.
for everything. You need housing to get all of the tracking that they want to do on you through your state-issued ID or driver's license. Plus, like you said, you have to have it for the W-2 so that you can get a job, so that you can get any services, especially if you need something like food stamps. You have to have an address on file.
Like it's what I'm saying is it's completely unsustainable. Like the rent pricing, rent is through the roof, and I don't know anybody really in my immediate association group or friend group that is not struggling with rent or what they're going to be doing in the next 10 years. And I don't think it's like that everywhere. Even incredibly poor people who live other places, who live in a shack somewhere.
10 years ago, if you lived in China, your life is better now than it was then. 10 years ago,
Well,
here,
now people
were you
are
making
reporting on
more
their stories,
or less?
right? Yeah, like I think somebody even went on Twitter and they were like, when I was a student trying to get my law degree, I was able to afford a one-bedroom apartment. And now as a licensed attorney, I can't afford that same apartment. And that's how egregious things have gotten. And that we, again, right, like there are trends that are just going to reoccur in capitalism because it is about exploiting the system and accumulating as much capital and wealth as possible. Fuck everybody else.
And everybody repeating the same bullshit without any understanding of these systems. I'm sorry that your senile grandpa is going to continue to fucking lecture you about financial responsibility when he had the GI Bill pay for his fucking college debt and motherfucking bought his home for $5,000.
And fuck landlords, quite honestly, because they're still exploiting the sense of housing, which is that people deserve to live in a house. You shouldn't have to pay for that. I feel like if we're saying this is a basic human right, it should be for free. Capitalism can't envision giving anything for free, even though it would solve a lot of problems around health, people's health, crime statistics, etc. And yet here we are talking, and I mean, it will get as bad as the Irish people know when British landlords absolutely were like, well, you can give us these potatoes to pay for your rent or you can starve and die. That's what we're going to be at. These investors don't give a shit.
This is the part of Crime and Punishment where they started coming for the pawnbrokers and the landlords. Classic lit.
Yeah, hey, get a guillotine. I do want to mention the crack
That's the
team.
French. But carry on.
Okay, well, how do you say guillotine in English?
The Crime and Punishment is Russia, but I understand.
How do you say it in Russian?
I don't fucking know. I'm not a Putin fucking bot, okay?
The crack team did some research on the skateboard thing. I just wanted to say, just to go back to your point, 73,000 people are injured in skateboards per year. So to your point, good point. Anyway.
It's a lot.
Y'all, that's our first Inner City Left episode. Look, we got tons of episodes. Look, we got years and years of podcasts under Exit the Matrix and now, or Two Public Polls now, Inner City Left. We getting our Patreon stuff together. But hey, follow us on Instagram, y'all.
This better encapsulates everything we're doing, from the music to the art to the activism. Inner City Left.
Yes. Follow us on Instagram, Inner City Left. Follow Lil Tanky That Could on Instagram. I'm _MeanTMK. We have tons of great music out right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp what we do as socialist trap. That's what we're doing right now. Socialist trap music. If that's something that you think you're into, just type Lil Tanky or MeanTMK into any music streaming service, whether it be SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, so on and so forth. And, yeah. Final words or anything else y'all want to add after a phenomenal and great episode? Y'all look great, by the way.
Y'all look
Because
great.
I'm beautiful.
Yeah. Look, we're glad to be back, y'all.
Video, you can see our beautiful faces. Y'all been begging, thirsty ass motherfuckers. You finally get to see it.
Yeah, at least some of it before
You're
we
not
turn
going
the
to see
camera
my
off.
face, so yeah.
Right now, Keita's clandestine over there. Okay, Inner City Left, MeanTMK, Lil Tanky That Could, Keita the Muscle, stay woke, stay hydrated, and we out.